Hello. Hi, guys. Hi, Sabrina. Hi, Vicky. Hi. Who do we got here? Enrico. Good morning. Good morning. Veron, sitting outdoor. I love it. That's where I should be, but my Wi-Fi is not reliable outside. And you might lose me at some point. So here we are. So good to see you guys. I hope you are doing fantastic and that the weather that is so fantastic is all around you and that you are giving yourself time to enjoy it, like Veronica. So, welcome back to Conscious Co-Parenting. Today is day 5. I thank you for your patience because last Friday I had a bit of a smack in the face head cold from I'm sure my son brought it home, blaming the kids. And so I thought the video was up and then the tech didn't go, and I was like, okay. And then the workbook, and I'm like, okay, guys, really? I apologize. I was kind of under the weather. I'm still a little bit woozy today, but I'm here. And what I'm really glad about is that today is continuation of frequency. So I actually kind of like how this worked out because I would rather you have a workbook that has everything about frequency in one place. So I probably would have ended up having to modify that in some way. So point being, the second workbook is going to have everything from last week, focus and frequency, and today, which is part 2 of frequency. Okay. And then there still will be a third workbook this week for Thursday because that topic is a completely separate topic. Okay. And then next week, it makes sense. We'll do everything in one workbook, workbook 4. And some of you might not be so worried about this, but for those who are following along at the right cadence, or the cadence that I'm going on, everything on flow will be in the 4th workbook, which will be next week because we're going to do 2 sessions on flow because that's my favorite topic. So I hope you're in the flow. Let's take a deep breath. Let's do 5 breaths of 5, 5, 5, which means we're going to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, and then we're going to exhale for 5. So just let's bring our brains and our minds and our hearts and our energy back into a centered place so we can really absorb and be present and be here for ourselves and our kids. So let's start with the first breath. We're going to exhale and empty our tank. And a deep breath in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold the breath. Exhale. Deep breath into the belly. Hold the breath. Exhale. Let it all out. Deep breath in all the way to the chest, to the belly. Hold the breath. Exhale, nice and big. Feel free to make noises. You're all on mute. One more deep breath in. Hold the breath. Exhale, letting it all go. And a final deep breath in. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath. Exhale, nice and long as you can. 1. Come back when you're ready. Just a 1-minute reset of your breathing and allowing yourself to really breathe all the way into your body can change the rest of your day. Because it's one reset, right? Just like somebody flips you the bird in traffic can throw your whole day off. A deep breath in and out a few times resets our nervous system and can change the trajectory of your day. You do this before you enter meetings. You do this before you come home and parent if you're a working parent. You do this before you go to bed. All of a sudden you're better at sleeping. You do this before you have to deal with family on special occasions, if that drives you crazy. I remember everybody was in my pool once last summer, and I feel very blessed and honored that many of my family members have actually taken my program. So they know exactly what the heck I'm doing. And at one point, everyone's having fun. Everyone had towels. Everybody had hair ties. And, if anybody has a pool, hosting parties at a pool is like a whole dollar store action. It's like, okay, what does everybody need? Because then nobody can get out. So I'm running up and down. Once everybody was dealt with, I left and went to my bedroom and did a little meditation. And nobody was driving me nuts. Actually, kind of really like my family. Kind of really like, what does that mean? But they're like, where were you? Where were you? And I came down like 20 minutes, 30 minutes later. My brother was like, where were you? We're all looking for you. And I was like, that's a... And they all laughed at me, but they're all like, this chick's not playing. Like, I will do a reset for as long as I need, as often as I need, because I would rather have 4.5 amazing hours with people than 5 frazzled. What about you? Okay. Quality over quantity is my new motto. So remember, our resets, our focus, our frequency, which is today's continued topic, there couldn't be anything more important in my mind, in my experience. And the frequency work and all of this stuff that you're doing, all of this garden work that we're doing together here, right? Not just pulling the weeds, but replanting new thoughts, new ideas, new concepts, new ways of being, new frequencies. And we're going to next call, talk about faith, which is a whole new muscle that a lot of us need to work on, right? Living in positive expectation, having different beliefs about us, about life, about how we're supported, how we're loved, all those things. All of these seeds, are they going to help you in the co-parenting relationship? Good God, yes. Okay. Tried it, tested it. We've proven that theory. Like mind-blowing results. This is going to affect every single area of your life. This is going to affect every single area of your life, right? So really, really allow yourself to explore. And we're going to go into today deeper into this conversation because it is such a big one. Now, I said last call that there was a part about processing emotion, and I made a reference to being present with emotion. And this is something that, God, if we can all master this, we would change the planet, okay? Because that's my personal opinion. Because it really all will come down to being present with ourselves and present in our flow, which we're going to go way, way deeper into next week as well. But so what do I mean by being present with emotion, right? And this is going to make us better parents too, as we talked about last call, because when we learn how to process our own real-time emotions and get comfortable with emotions and understand that we're human beings who came here to have feelings, right? And we will always have feelings, and that's a good thing. And some of you may have seen, I posted a little video in the Facebook group that I saw right after we finished our last call. I was sat in my husband's office and it came on the TV. He likes like white noise in the background, drives me bonkers. I would never be able to work like that, but he likes the TV on, and sometimes Wheel of Fortune is on sometimes. And so there was a commercial. I'm like, I don't remember the last time I saw a commercial, but I was watching it and I thought it was a Kleenex commercial, and it was all about emotion. And the first half of the commercial, everyone's bawling their eyes out and smashing glasses and upset and angry. And then the second half is this beautiful symphony of bliss and love at the highest level. And it just made you want to grab Kleenex and, buy stock in the company. We are here to feel. We are here to feel, not to react. It's going to happen. But I think we want more than that, right? We're talking about feeling genuine emotion and really learning to regulate ourselves emotionally. And part of that means learning to be present with emotion. And for many people, not in this group, just in general, it means clearing the backlog of emotion that has not been processed, that has not been given the airtime and space that it needed, right? if we were bullied as a child, if we were abandoned as a child, if we were ignored, there's so much harm, there's so many things, right, that happen. And there's so many variations, and it's not just one thing. And there's big T, big trauma T, and there's small trauma T's, and they're all held in our body and get us all wound up. Most of the planet is really wound up. Like I was driving, I'm not on the road very much these days because I work from home. And I'm just like, people on the road are batshit crazy. Like, and you go rush hour driving. Like I was working with a law firm yesterday who I'm doing mentorship and coaching with, which is really fun. And so I happened to be on the road at rush hour, and I was like, this is the state of the people. Just emotionally dysregulated, overworked, haven't been given the tools to process, angry, in a rush, not in the flow. Like this is the opposite of the flow, right? That affects everything. That affects our co-parenting. It affects our relationships. It affects how long our divorce and separation is going to take if you're in that stage. Like it affects everything. So what I mean by being present, I'm going to give you a little example because I think the examples are what I help land these things, and from concepts to reality. Okay. When, as I shared with you, my older sister passed away, my older adopted sister passed away in 2020, March of 2020, right as COVID was beginning. And lo and behold, even though I had had a few conversations with her, asking her, they're not conversations you want to have, but I had said to her, have you thought about, God forbid, if you don't make it, do you want me to arrange anything for the boy? She has 2 beautiful boys, and I'm technically their godmother and intended to, keep an eye on them. So I was like, is there anything you want me to do? Anything you want me to roll out? And she was like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. And I'm sure she did make arrangements through her husband, because in the end, although she didn't have the conversation with me, it turned out she did have one with Michael. And in that conversation, her husband, Michael, she said, I want to leave all my crystals and all my books and all my jewelry to Rad. And there was obviously some sentimental jewelry that obviously the boys, have, and some that I'm keeping in safekeeping for them. But she had this beautiful crystal collection in her bedroom, and it was like a glass case, multiple level. And she had crystals from all around the world. And one of her cousin-in-laws was like an archaeologist, I think is the term. And so he had these rare crystals that he found, and some ended up in the ROM collection in Toronto. And then she got pieces of those, just like ones you can't even buy, right? And I know they meant a whole lot to her. And it meant so much to me that A, she would give them to me, but B, that she even took a moment to talk about it, because I couldn't get her to talk about these things. I didn't think she had told Michael anything. And so this was March, April, right, 2020, and Michael let me know this. And obviously he was dealing with big fish. And so in October, as my 40th birthday was approaching, I said to him, I called him up. He's like the most amazing human being. So I knew he'd be happy if I said this. I said, Michael, I know you've been thinking about bringing the crystal case to me. And I know if Saloni was alive, she'd really want me to get some, she'd want to give me something for my 40th. So how do you feel about bringing me the crystal case for my 40th birthday? And he was like, I love that idea. And I'm coming next week. So lo and behold, like the sun, reliable like the sun, he shows up in his pickup truck. He's got the big thing in the back, and he's got all the crystals beautifully wrapped in boxes. And he comes into my house, and I'm having an otherwise good day. And my baby boy, Sahil's in the bathtub upstairs. And I don't know where Arian must have been playing or something. We're just doing our whatever weekend thing. And it was COVID, so we weren't going anywhere. And so he comes in, and I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs. And I have this moment of whoa, her crystals are at my house. It's a big deal. And because I'm conscious of the layers of my mind at this stage in my life, and I only caught it after, but it's funny how our brains work. Actually, and I shouldn't give myself so much credit, because I didn't catch it right in the very moment. I can see it now. I was actually quite happy to receive them. And then this voice kicked in, and it came from my East Indian, Bollywood, violin, like dramatic movies growing up, the Indian culture. Like if you go to Indian funeral, it's like chest thumping, and just like if you notice, like different cultures even do funerals differently. And I heard in Gujarati, in my mother tongue, like, oh my God, what kind of days have come upon us? Like that was the sentence that came. And I was like, oh my God, her stuff is here. And all of a sudden, this level of drama kicked in, and I started to cry. And it was almost like I was like, well, I should cry, right? Like, this is awful. Like, she's no longer here. And so I'm receiving her crystals. And so I noticed a switch from like, I'm fine, and I'm so grateful that he's here, and I'm so excited to like open this and have a heartfelt connected moment, to like starting to cry and starting to feel really sad and upset. And then I hear my son in the bathtub, and this is where like you can't make this shit up. He goes, "Mommy, no more drama." And I was like, what? What did he say? He's like, "Can you please put the next song, No More Drama?" He was listening to music in the bathtub, and I Bluetooth it off of my iPhone, and they have a little list on my, their music list. And I don't know who sings the song, but one of you might know, but there's a song called No More Drama, and it was on their list. And so he was like telling me, flip to the next song. But the way I heard it was at the bottom of the stairs. And I swear to you, if you knew Saloni, this would make even more sense. Thank you, Mary J. Blige. Thank you. He was, because I heard, like, that's how she spoke. Like, if she was in the room, she would have been like, "Rat, no more drama, okay?" She was so no bullshit. And I was like, oh my God, I caught myself. And I was like, where did that come from? And this is where the conscious awareness came from. It's like when I'm just present with the emotion and just present with the moment, it's really presence with the moment and with my heart. This is literally the connection point, guys. Like, this is not about Valentine's and frou-frou, pink and red. This is actually the chakra. This is actually the energetic center of this. When I was fully present in my heart, I just felt gratitude. I felt gratitude for Michael to come on a day like that with a mask on. I felt gratitude for her to give this to me. I felt gratitude to receive thousands of dollars of crystals, just like for as a birthday gift. There was no sadness. So our ego mind, our mind, has the ability of almost tricking us, kind of like skewing reality. And it doesn't just overplay emotion, sometimes it downplays emotion. It'll be like, oh, I shouldn't feel like this. I should stop crying. All that stuff we talked about last week. It's like, can we just be present with the emotion? And if you really catch yourself as a parent, even me, even now, like the other day, I was like, whoa, wow. I'm usually pretty good when my kids cry. And I caught myself going, okay, like, you're okay now. It's like, you can't tell a child they're okay now, right? Like, you're gonna be okay. But just what if we just be present? We're also busy trying to solve everyone's problems, like men especially, they always, I think they hate that. Like, it's like, just be there. You don't need to, my husband says to me, maybe I can't, he's one guy out of 4 billion, but like, I actually don't need you to solve this. I just need you to listen. Right? And so many of us women feel the same way. It's the same thing with kids. It's the same with all of us. My little guy saying to me, "Mom, this just sucks." It's like, what sucks? Sucks. You don't need to solve it. Just let yourself feel it in real time. And here's what I've learned about this is that when we do that, and again, you might have back stock inventory to clear up. Okay, most of us do. I certainly did. You will process the emotion faster than you actually think. I have meditations sometimes, less often than not now, but where I will just really connect to my body, really connect to my heart, go like, how are you actually doing, Rad? And I'll just start, like tears will come. And I'm like, wow, I didn't see that coming. Okay, what's that about? And instead of analyzing it too much, I just get present with it. And it literally goes, boom, done. We don't need to over amplify it, and we also don't need to underdo it. And the magic spot is present. If you can just be present, you don't need to worry. There's no formula. There's no how to do it right. Just be present with it. It will tell you what it needs. It will tell you, is this a 16-second thing or a 16-hour thing? It will tell you. Staying connected to our heart and being present with the real you is such a gift we give ourselves, right? And when we've started to clear the back inventory and start to process past stuff and past wounds and past disappointments and past sadness and past anger and resentment, all the things we've been burying in our bodies, making ourselves sick, then you get it to a stage, and this could take time, and that's okay. We don't know. Just be present with it. Like, I'm not going to try to predict, and there's no point. Then you get more into kind of like what I call the maintenance package, right? It's like we pulled out the weeds were overflowing, and we cleared it out. We changed the soil. We start watering the lawn. Now you're in what? You're in maintenance package. And it's like, oh, the odd weed comes up, you pluck it. It's like that. You're in real time. And what this does on an energetic level is it starts to keep the pathway of your energy open. Emotion is energy in motion. It just needs to move. There's some phenomenal books by Michael Singer, who's a very famous teacher on the planet. If you haven't heard of him yet, I recommend. He's got 3 books. I'm happy to put the name of them in the group, but the first one I would start with is The Untethered Soul. And it talks about this, and this is also like he comes from a kind of a yoga background, right? So studying of the Yoga Sutras, not yoga in the physical, like downward dog. That's not what the downward dog, the physical yoga is just one of the 5 forms of yoga, right? But this is from Patanjali, which is a book that's thousands of years old. And they talk about the same thing, that when we have these energetic blocks in our system, it creates blocks, physical blocks in different parts of the centers that then block us from feeling flow, feeling joy, feeling present and connected with our lives, feeling intuitive, feeling inspired, creative, alive, joy, and it impacts us on a physical level, right? So remember last week we talked about the two ways, just so you could kind of conceptualize how we raise our frequency. And I said healing emotional past blocks is probably the biggest one in my experience, of when we start to clear that debris up. Now all of a sudden, I'm going to give you another analogy. It's kind of like a pipe, like a garden pipe. And imagine that the garden pipe, so this is our garden pipe, it's plugged with rocks and sand and pebbles, right? What happens if you turn on the faucet? Put it in the chat. Tell me what you're thinking here. What happens if we turn on the water and the pipe is packed with stuff? The water is blocked. Water is blocked. You guys are literally using the same wording. Yes, I love it. Only a small amount of water will trickle. Yeah. And how will the pipe move? Anybody think about that? Have you ever seen, yeah, backed up? It's almost like the pipe starts to get tangled too, right? And it starts to like move in a weird way, or get completely blocked, backed up, only a little bit of water, air gets stuck too. Yes. So now when we start to do this work of clearing out stuff, and I had said last week, there's 2 ways: drop heavy stuff and also connect to higher vibrational stuff, right? This is the dropping of the heavy stuff. You're gonna maybe pop out a big rock, right? And then a little bit of sand will move, and then that will create some momentum, and then more things will move, and then the rocks move, right? Once you have cleared a vast majority, what happens? Water starts to move. This is literally how life force moves through our bodies. And there are so many backgrounds, Chinese medicine, Hindu philosophy, Vedic philosophy, Yoga Sutras, right? Like chi, prana, shakti. There's so many words, flow. For me, those are all fantastic teachers on an information level. And then there's sheer experience. There's sheer experience. I can sit and actually feel the flow in my body. And if you really just get present with your hands, with your body, you start to feel there's like a life force or something moving. It's not just your blood circulating for all the doctors in the group, right? There is a flow of energy moving through your body. And it emanates outwards. It emanates outwards, and that's your auric field, right? There's all kinds of science and scientific studies being done now on the power of things like Reiki and person-to-person healing. And I have experienced it myself in ways that I just will never be able to put into words. But I've got my energy so activated in the past that I thought my chest was going to fall out of my body. Like I was like, is there a doctor in the house? And I felt elated and amazing, but so much energy coming in. I thought I could power the city just like the Niagara Falls. Like there was something happening. And I had people walking up to me going, there's something happening with you. And I thought, thank good God that they're noticing, because I started to think I was kind of going crazy. It was one of my first times feeling this way, right? And the energy when we're healing, where does it come through? It comes through our hands, it comes through this. The heart center is connected. Your fourth center is connected to your hands. When we hear about what Jesus did, for those of you who believe or don't believe, just as a human who walked the earth, you would see pictures of him. What's activated in the pictures? His heart center and the chakras in his hands. He healed with his hands. Okay, so this is energy moving through your body. This is your vibration. This is your vibe. And when you start to bring in practices, and this is the key, this is what's going to make the difference between those who do it and don't in life, right? Those who are vibrating high and manifesting what they want and truly feeling the joy. You walk up to me like that person's energy, right? You got to do it. You got to have a practice where you're pulling the weeds. And then you're in a maintenance package place where you're checking on your garden with compassion, right? Compassionate gatekeeping. You're regularly checking in. I no longer can be convinced, unless your day job is like this, where you are generally just moving energy, or, if you're a Reiki healer for the day job or something of that vein, like something where it's just innate in what you're doing, that you could skip this. I just don't know any one of my mentors or teachers that I look up to who are really changing the way the planet is operating in a positive way, that they don't have practices, right? It's like trying to convince me that if I stopped showering, it wouldn't stink. It's like, you're just not going to convince me of that. And if you want to be, you come hang out with me for 48 hours. Like, we need to shower. We need to do all these things. So it's the same thing with our energy. And the biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that you are in the driver's seat when it comes to your energy. You can actually do small things every day or on a regular basis. You don't have to get it perfect. I don't get it perfect. Nobody gets it perfect. It's about commitment. It's about, have I skipped a shower in my life? Sure. But on the whole, do I skip showers? No. It's like, get this so ingrained in you that you can start to move energy through your body in a different way if you start to tend to it. And once you do start to tap into it, you start to feel it and start to understand how it's impacting not just the parking spot you got, or your children or your job, but everything. you can start doing this, not just in a chair, so if I'm kind of referring to the meditation practice as my method. I can do it in the grocery store. I can do it talking to you right now. I can move energy and start lighting up centers in my body. I can connect to frequencies that are way over my head, outside of my body. And I know it sounds a little out there for some, and I appreciate this, but I'm planting a seed with you of what's possible. I think you came to me here, and we're doing this together because you wanted a unedited version of what's possible. Yes? So this is not theory. This is not just in the books. This is real. This is accessible to real, normal people like you and me. And it takes the self-love of discipline, the discipline of self-love, to take care of yourself and tend to yourself. Not just give the kids the vitamins, give yourself vitamins. Not just, make sure that they have their backpack perfectly packed in the morning, but that you're packed for the day, that you're taking care of yourself. Not that they're just going to arts and music and dance classes and this and that, but that you're tending to your soul and doing things you love, right? I have had probably over, I'm going to say hundreds of clients as a divorce lawyer ask me, as their paid advisor, do you think my kid needs to be in therapy? Because I often referred people to individual counselors. I often refer people to marriage counselors. It's technically actually in the Divorce Act that we are required in Ontario to suggest marriage counseling before we even process a divorce. The funny thing is, I think most lawyers ask that the day they sign the divorce, which is the very last step of the process. We're supposed to do it at the beginning. And more, the legal system has made amendments to make sure that lawyers are doing this right at the top, right? So this was very much a part of my job. I wasn't a therapist, but I was one that was referring to that. And so I had a whole roster of people that I trusted and knew and loved and had sent my own family members to, and right? And my instinct, my feeling as a mother, as somebody who gives a shit, as a trained children's lawyer, as somebody who's in this world and focused on this world, this was just my take. And then I had many therapists who are super famous echo this. Kids don't need therapy. Do they need a place to talk and to let things out? Sure. But you could be that safe place. But we have to tend to our own emotionals. We have to tend to our own energy, our own vibration and frequency, and understand how to be present with emotion, right? Our kids want us to be okay. That's all they need. They're doing great. If you just left them to their own vices and fed them and gave them a safe place to grow, they would grow into flowers and tulips and roses, right? Like there's nothing to fix. We're the ones in the way. And so what I would say to them was, listen, I'm not going to say don't send them if you really strongly feel. And then of course the husband and the wives couldn't agree on therapy and blah, blah, blah. One said yes, one said no. You have to be 12 to consent to your own therapy. And so it was always like this, often it was this thing. But my core gut instinct was, you just take care of you. Stop bypassing and making it about everybody else, including your kids, when you are the one that's not doing okay. Okay. And conflict is not just yelling at people. Children are energetic beings. They understand energy. They're intuitive. They know, they're smart little cookies, right? So they know if somebody's fighting, even if they're silent. Did I give you guys the example of the dad at the door yet? Can you just nod yes or no? No? Okay. I know some of you have been on all the calls. Ron, I haven't given you that one yet, have I? The dad at the door? No. Okay. Okay. So because I did share this on IG, I think once in a live that I did leading up to this program. So it feels recent, but I don't think I actually shared it with you guys. And this one's really was big. So I had a client who was lovely guy, and he had 2 little girls. And jump in if I did choose, but I don't think I did. And he was co-parenting 2 little girls. They were in the process of getting the separation agreement done. I was this lawyer. I get a letter from the lawyer on the other side saying, you need to immediately speak to your client because we are having major issues at pickup and drop off, right? Of course, all these letters feel very urgent. And so, sorry, I don't mean to mock the legal system, but sometimes it was a little bit over dramatic. So govern yourself accordingly, I would hear at the bottom. Okay, so we're going to govern ourselves. So I call up my client and I'm like, hey, bud, what's going on? Like, I know you're a great guy. I know you're trying your best. Tell me what's going on at the pickup, at the door, when you go get the girls, when it's your day. And he says, nothing's going on. I said, well, something's going on because I'm getting a letter at 400 an hour. So like, I got to respond to this. What is going on? And he said, well, I said, okay, so just break down for me when you come to the door, walk me through it. Give me a play-by-play. What happens when you get to the door? It was a park on the driveway. I walk up to the door. I ring the doorbell. My ex comes to the door. She opens the door. The girls run up to the door. Daddy, daddy. Because I look down, I say hi, and then I leave. I said, so what do you say to the mom? And he goes, I don't say anything. I say, so you just ignore her? You just walk up to a door. You don't say hello. Do you say hello? Nope. Why would I say hello? She doesn't say hello to me. Okay, so you come to the door. Your kids are standing there. You don't say hi. Do you make eye contact? Nope. I look right at that. So you completely ignore her like she's not there. You don't say bye. You don't say thanks for the backpack. Nothing. Are there clothes? You don't. No conversation takes place. He goes, I completely ignore her. I'm trying not to have conflict, he tells me. I'm going to bet, because of how amazing this group is and how amazing people somehow find these amazing resources, that your kids are also equally amazing, and that you raise your kids to know what to do when they see another human being. And that when you derogate from that, what you've taught them, say hello, say hi, say thank you. Did you say please? Oh, the lady at Longo's gave you a sticker. What do you say? Right? When you ignore the mother or the father, how do you think the child processes that? Put it in the chat. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's have a real life, real talk conversation about this. Like they don't matter. And what does that cause our child to feel? How do they feel when someone ignores one of their parents? Yes, thank you guys. Ron, you model that behavior when it's not. Enrico, thank you. Yes. Ron, they feel sad. Vicky, sad. Yeah. What else do they feel? Confused. Maybe even angry. Disappointed. Resentment. Lost. Stuck in the middle. Don't know what side to take. Torn. Yeah. Thank you, Sabrina. They feel skeptical about what they're being told and taught. Yeah. It's a complete lip service that we give them, right? It's like, so hold on, but I'm allowed to act like this when I don't like the person. It also teaches them that divorce means this, yeah? Like this is their future. This is what you've signed them up for. That this is now how it's going to be. What we know now, which is unequivocal social science, and that's the type that I like, right? Like even if it's spiritual, or if it's social science, or if it's research science, whatever, what we like are patterns. We like things that are consistently saying the same thing. What the social science literature has said ever since I was in this profession for 2 decades is children are not harmed by divorce, they're harmed by conflict. And we can't always shield them from the stuff that happens at school or in the schoolyard or at the park, right? Although we can, in ways, protect them by building confidence and building strong self-esteem, which this, by the way, conflict is diminishing. We can handle this part. We can handle this part. And I know I'm being like kind of like tough rad right now. This is my version of tough. But I do this program for kids. My client is your kids. And I used to practice law for the kids. So we can do better here, right? We can do better here. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about conflict, is that it's the insidious, subtle, not so subtle. You think you're being subtle, but it's not subtle, right? And now imagine the boomerang effect, because it wasn't the kids who told the lawyer to write me a letter. Who asked for the letter to go out? The wife, right? The other parent. And now how does that impact what she's saying at home to the kids about him? It's a chain reaction. And I'm just so not interested in hearing from anybody anymore that he did it or she did it, or well, I'm just responding, because they're just responding to you, and then you're just responding to them, and they're responding to you, and you're responding to them. And that's what relationships look like. And I know it's not easy. People are fucking complicated. Like, it's not easy, but you're here because you're ready to start a movement in the co-parenting world. You're here, I know, because you want to do it different and better. So gone are the days where we sit here and say, well, they did it. Maybe they did do it. Maybe you're right. I have never in my career, I made millions of dollars. I never could figure out who was right. Never. Because there is never someone who's right. Everyone was trying their best. Everyone was flawed. Everyone was good. Everyone had trauma. Everyone was overworked, not taking care of themselves, not in the flow, right? There's lots of weeds on both sides. And we all have them. I'm not immune. Nobody's immune to that. That's the human experience. The question is, what would life look like for us, for our children, if our gardens were thriving? If we were feeling purpose in our mornings, feeling connected to something bigger than ourselves, a vision for how we could give back to the world, who we came here to be, and we took care of our body, our mind, and our soul, our hearts. What kind of parent are you in those moments? Right? My son told me this. I won't go into the whole story, but there's a funny video I did on Instagram where I'm sitting in my robe, like at my night table. There's a few of those, but if you sift, it was in the last 2 months. And it was just so funny because my son was telling me about a fight that he had with his best friend. And how the kids were then every day reacting to what they did to each other. So it was a Minecraft issue. I don't know if people know the game Minecraft, right? And we're at bedtime and Aryan goes to me, so Mama, Nathan blew up our world today, right? And I was like, oh no. And so I was like, yeah, you can't believe it. I had so much ammo and equipment and weapons in there, or whatever the heck, like there is probably ammo in there, TNTs, but then there's also like food and beef and randoms, like it's like a survival game, right? And I'm like, oh, and this is a little boy who's so adorable, who comes over all the time, who like is the best manners I've ever seen come out of a child. We were just actually at their home yesterday swimming. Best family, like I really want my kid to hang out with this family. You know what I mean? Like, these are good people. And so I'm like, well, what happened? What did you do that caused him to do that? And when we went back, it was like, this started, which was my kid, by the way. My kid started it. It was like, oh, I just took this. And I'm like, well, you can't take people's this. It doesn't matter. And he's like, yeah, but Mom, I just took his lamp. So how can he take my whole house? And I was like, so then he took the house, and then I blew up his world, and then he blew up my world. Like, I don't even know. Like, I can't remember the story. You'll watch the whole video if you want. But I said to my child, what is it going to take to have peace in this situation? Because what you're describing is how countries go to war against each other. There's nothing different. This is not unique. If we can't do it, we can't teach our children that. But if we could do it and we could teach our children that, we might actually change the course of the planet. Yes? Like, call me an optimist. But if we all got on this movement and we taught our kids, because we live it, we embody it, that look, sometimes people do stuff and we have to see our participation in it. And someone has to call the truce. And someone's got to open up dialogue and have a conversation. I said, why don't you tomorrow apologize to your friend and let him know how you felt when your world got blown up? Right? It's this modeling of this. And here's why I give all these tools. Because if I just said this to you, if I just said, well, just be better, right? Just like do better. It's not enough, because you're already doing your best. Do you see what I'm saying here? This was my kind of pet peeve and what moved me into action to serve my clients in a different way, because I was like, us just telling parents or human beings, try to do better, try to be more peaceful, try to, like, I am doing the best that I can, right? And when we used to go into meetings, 4-way settlement meetings, where I got paid hundreds of dollars by the hour to eat bagels and talk, I could tell my client, okay, like, let's just keep it cool, right? Like, we get more bees with honey, and I would model it and I would be there. We could get to a certain point, but guess what will happen? If there's stuff under the surface that hasn't been resolved, emotion, conversations, discussions, recognition that didn't happen, all kinds of things that were not resolved, it would blow up. Or we would look like we reached a deal, and then the next day I'd get a call from the lawyer saying, we're not signing it. My client changed her mind. Right? So I'm not interested at surface level fix. I'm not interested in just getting the agreement done and then saying, okay, good luck. I know the phone calls don't stop there. I know the conflict doesn't stop there. And I know we need to do more than just talk about and tell people to be better. Let's give us tools. Let's have tools. And so what I'm saying is, all of these things are tools. These are the tools. Let's tweak the garden. Let's clear the emotional debris. Let's heal. Let's rise. Okay. So that's kind of my spiel on this big picture of it. Let's talk about things that we can add to our lives. So in this vein, what are things that you believe we could add to our lives, habits, things, tools that will raise our frequency? What are things we could add? What are things we can add? Before we, and feel free to go into the chat and start sharing. I'm just going to catch up here and just share. Yeah. Thank you, Enrico. Why are Mama and Papa acting this way? 100% confused, right? Like, they'd be so confused. I thought you said you liked him. I thought you said you and Daddy are friends. That's not what friends act like, right? Vicky, yes. Advocate for the other parent. Yes. Yeah. When you know better, you do better. Thanks for these important reminders and for advocating for our kids. They and we are fortunate to have you. Oh, thank you. Sabrina, if we don't model the behavior we expect of our children, they will not accept what we are trying to teach them. 1000%. Yes, all of this is amazing. These examples are so powerful. Thank you, Vicky. We have to clear out the clutter to show up better for ourselves and our kids. Yes. And, you know, I was interviewed on a podcast yesterday, which hopefully I'll be able to share with you guys in the coming weeks. And she said to me, what is one final thing that you really want people to know? And this is, you know, the backbone of a program like this, which is small shifts lead to a big change. Small shifts lead to a big change. We are not giving you a head transplant. I'm not changing your personality. We're not changing your first and last name. Like, I'm not giving you a new SIM card. You are just doing small things for your mind. You're going to do small things for your energy. You're going to do small little things by getting clear about where you want to go, why. You're going to do small things to reconnect with yourself. And all of that is going to add up to something so big. Because you're not completely off in the ditch. You're like in the shoulder, you know? And it's like, okay, from the shoulder, how do we get on the road? It's like, and from the road, how do we get into the middle of the road? That's alignment. That's just like small things. So I'm so glad this is clicking. I'm so glad this is kicking. Yes. So let's think about this. Let's talk about this in the chat. What are, in your opinion, as wise human beings who walk the planet, what raises your frequency? What do you believe could do more? Like anything that you think you could add to your life. Amazing, Sabrina. Meditation, self-love, introspection, honesty with ourselves. So honest introspection. Yeah, huge. Journaling, all things that raise our vibration. Yes. Yeah, and I feel like self-love means taking care of ourselves. It means tending to our own garden and not waiting for someone to come to do it, right? Exercise, yeah, huge. There you go. Mind, body, soul, right? Vicky, space for ourselves. Yes, that's huge. For me, I can literally, if I start to go like, it's like, I need some alone time. I need to be alone. I love everybody. Ciao. I gotta go. And I just sit in my bed. I need to pick up a good book, like a Conversations with God, and just like one page. And I'm like, back. I'm back. It's amazing, right? Just tiny things, guys. It's the tiny things, but it's to do it without complaining, without making excuses, without worrying what other people are going to say. You're taking too much time for yourself. Like it's just not. And as we do it, it's going to reinforce it because you're going to go, oh my God, the day when I did it, I felt so good. And the day I didn't, right? It's like, and doing that. And imagine you are now modeling this for your kids. You're modeling this, how to take care of yourself. Your kids, that is worth millions to your kids. Going for a nature walk, Veronica, yes. Sabrina, love it. Cleaning the physical clutter in our homes, huge, huge. How to raise our frequency. And so we will see some overlap with focus, right? Because we talked about focus last week, but obviously what's good for the mind is also good for our energy, for our vibration. Going for a nature walk is actually much bigger than people even realize because nature is vibrating in harmony. It knows how to do stuff. Like my husband and I are not very like big in gardening, but we have a few plants now in the backyard. We get very excited at what like nature can do, or like the thing just died. Did you see that? We have to pull it. And then I went to pick it up. It just crumbled, went into the earth, and then it turned into a new hosta. And this week there's it's like, it's so intelligent. It is in such a coherent state. It's flowing. When you go into nature, the garden hoses are on. You don't need to do anything. The city of Toronto didn't come and tell my hostas to grow. Nobody had to sprinkle magic powder. I didn't have to take a probiotic to it. Like it just knew. Its innate intelligence knows when. I don't have to knock and go, by the way, it's spring now. You're supposed to come now. Winter's over. It knows. The sun knows when to set and rise. It knows when it's spring equinox, which I think is tomorrow, right? It knows. It's fucking intelligent. It's in harmony. It's in complete coherence. That's why nature, people go and they feel better, but just to give you that side piece, that it's because its frequency is naturally high. Its frequency is naturally high. And one of the downloads that I've received, and I actually received it right around when COVID was happening, was that the Earth's frequency rises before the humans. So if you think, we're just little ants. We're not even ants on the Earth's core, right? We're so insignificant. We're like a virus, right? And it's like, so when a virus happens, what happens? The cells that don't make it, and the ones that make it, and it's just replenishing. And now what happens? The body's stronger, right? Like if anybody studied bacteria, I think it forms the basis of like 90% of the material world, right? It's like we're just bacteria, and then things get sick, and then they get better, and then we evolve, right? So the Earth is actually already at the highest vibration. And humans are literally catching up. The earth does not need us. It's like, oh, we're destroying the earth. Yes, of course we are. But the minute it gets to a point where it's like, okay, you're not, the cost benefit of keeping the humans here is not worth it, it will just sneeze and get rid of us. Right? So when you're in nature, the gift is you get to catch up with its vibration. It's already in perfect order. It knows exactly what it's doing. It's clockwork, right? So a little bit on that at a cellular level. Sabrina, yes, the clutter, and to clear the clutter inside. Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this in day 3, right? It's that, and again, it does affect our energy. It's that internal affects external and external affects internal. And there's this back and forth. When you see your living room and it's all clean, you're like, life is good. It gives you the sense of order. And when you have that mirroring back and forth, it's very powerful and underestimated often. Vicky, time and space to be quiet and get out of the story and all the wisdom to come to us. It's in this space where I go into myself and see my blind spots, how I've contributed to the outcome. I love that so much. Thank you. Yeah, Enrico, there was a time when I thought self-love was about being vain and navel gazing. Yeah, now I equate self-love with self-respect. Absolutely. Absolutely. It really is that, and I think I've shared already, like Tony Robbins, who I admire as a life coach, somebody who's done a lot of amazing work and continues to, even though he doesn't need to. I've never specifically learned under him, but I've caught him here and there, and I love what he's doing. And I watched his documentary, and he said, worthiness is literally the root of all, like 95% of the problems that we have. Right? And I think this ties to what you're saying about self-respect. It's like, it's like, think about like if you had a beat up Oldsmobile, or if you had a Ferrari, how would you take care of the two? Right? It's like, but it's a Ferrari. Like, I gotta wax that thing, gotta keep it shiny, gonna like spot check every single thing. But the Oldsmobile, you're like, whatever, right? It's like, if you thought the car was amazing, you would treat it with more respect. You would be like, well, it just deserves a car wash every 24 hours, right? It's like, you can't have a Ferrari and have French fries stuck between your seats like Rad does in the backseat of a car right now, probably, right? Well, it's not a Ferrari, but it's kind of a nice car. We have one car and we went all out, right? But so for all out for us. So it's the same thing. How do you think of yourself? How do I think of myself? Do you see yourself as a Ferrari? Because even a Ferrari, when you don't take care of it, will fall apart. And I really believe at the soul level, at the core of our innate perfection, we are all Ferraris. We are all capable of operating like a Ferrari. We can all have big visions and missions. I have no doubt. If I sat down with every single one of you over a coffee, and some of you I have, and the rest I hope to have, you would tell me what you're here to do, and it would be pretty darn big. You would tell me, Rad, I had this idea once, and I know it would move me to tears. We came here with Ferrari level abilities. So it's that self-respect. It's that self-worth. What's your car worth? Right? Treat yourself like a Ferrari. Take care of it. Somebody comes too close to the Ferrari, it's like, buddy, you gotta step back. You can look at it, but you can't touch, right? It's like, you gotta guard it. You gotta take care of it. Love yourself. You're the Ferrari. I actually use the Ferrari analogy a lot in my programs. So I love that came up. Veronica, also grounding, walking on grass barefoot. Huge, huge, huge. There's science on this now. There's actually an entire documentary on this. I think it's called Earthing or something on Netflix. It's all about grounding. And again, kind of goes back to what we're talking about with nature. And they actually believe that a lot of illness has been caused by rubber shoes, by the fact that we wear rubber, which was like a wonderful invention. And I'm sure Nike loves, and all the companies love that they have this, product or this material that they can use, but it actually interferes with the chemical exchange between our bodies, like I think it's like the ions and the, right, between our body and the ground. So walking barefoot is huge. And some people even create grounding boards because I live in Canada. And some people even go and stand in their basements in the cold cellar because that's the closest you can get to your ground. Unless you're okay standing in snow, which I'm just not there yet, but don't be shocked if you see me with my feet in snow one day, because it's actually really, really important to do that. Yeah, I love that. Learning how to have compassion for myself, Vicky, and give myself grace was one of the most impactful steps on my healing journey. Yes. And this is, again, coming back to the Ferrari, right? It's like you treat it better. You have a higher standard. You don't just take it for a car wash once a year because your dad's in town. Like, you do it all the time, right? It's compassion. It's love. It's grace. Yes, I love this. This is huge. I'm glad that you enjoy the, of course, the guy tells me he likes the analogy. just using, you have to. And I love the men in my life and they would have done the same thing. Yeah, no, but I know that it clicks with all of us. Sabrina, setting boundaries. Yes, absolutely. Setting boundaries. And I also like to look at it as bandwidth management. It's like, it's not that I don't want to be there. It's just that if I'm there, at what cost? If I'm there for everybody and I say yes to everything, as much as I mean well and I want to in my heart of hearts, who pays when that happens? Right? So it's bandwidth management as well as boundaries. One thing that I often say, we use the word triggering a lot, and that comes up with boundaries, right? It's like, I see it a lot on social media, and God bless everybody, like we're all climbing the mountain. But sometimes I see when we're talking about boundaries, there's a lot of anger in the energy of the post or the share or the concept. And I'm thinking, well, you don't really probably fully understand the ultimate goal, right? And I say this with deep respect and love. I'm not trying to, minimize something, but here's the analogy that hopefully will stick with you. Pun intended, because it's about Band-Aids. Okay. I've often shared, and this is the perfect time to share, boundaries should be treated like Band-Aids, in my opinion. Okay. Boundaries are like Band-Aids. So when people are like, I had to boundary this guy and I had to boundary that girl, and I'm, it's like this energy of, like, remember we talked about intention, is like, is this a fear-based energy or is this a loving energy? And when we're trying to like kick people away from us and like push people away from us, it's not now a loving energy, it's more of a self-protection energy from a lower vibration, okay? Which is fine if we have to do it, just like we have to use Band-Aids, right? So when you have a wound, when your child falls down and scrapes their knee, sometimes the right thing to do is to what? We wash it, right? Clean up the wound, make sure there's no rocks or dirt in it. We maybe put some polysporin. For the naturopaths here, they probably have some tincture for that, right? But you put some, antibiotic, antiseptic kind of barrier, and then you put the Band-Aid, right? I love it. Keep it exposed, don't cover it up, coming from the teacher. See, I'm learning something. But so we're just going to use this, we're going to roll with this example, and it probably fits in the analogy what you're saying, Vicky. Sometimes you feel like, okay, no, I just can't, if something else touches this, it's going to be extremely painful, so I have to cover it for now. But we're covering it for now. Why? To give the wound time to heal. Yes? Now, have you ever had a child who had a Band-Aid on and just refused to take it off? Anybody have a child who's like, no, I can't take it off. I'm not ready, right? Kids will do that. But then you look under the Band-Aid, in the little gap, and it's like completely healed, right? Band-Aids are meant to be temporary, to give you space if you need to just ensure that nothing else goes so that you're not harmed any further and to give you space and time to heal. But then there's a time when you take it off. And what people say to that is like, so do I have to always be okay to hang out with so-and-so. No, here's the difference. Here's when you know you're whole and complete and you've done the healing work all the way, is when you can be around that person with a loving heart, with compassion, with grace, but you choose not to. You're allowed to choose who you hang out with. But if you're saying that you want to boundary everyone and live in a bubble, and then you're whole and healed, but the minute they walk back in the room, you're triggered, so you have to keep pushing them out the door, that is not completely healed. That's the Band-Aids on right now. So sometimes we got to do the Band-Aid. But the goal is to be able to take the Band-Aid off and be able to be around the people that pissed us off. In my opinion, if we're here for elevated consciousness, if we're here for steps to awakening, enlightenment, all those things, right? Raising things up to the next level. Being able to live in the world. Being able to live in the world without being at the grocery store and going, oh my God, hide me, right? She's here. Or going to a wedding and be like, oh my God, my ex just walked in the room, right? Like being able to actually operate in the world. And Michael Singer talks about this a lot in the book, right? Is that it takes way more energy to create a bubbled life where you're actually not healing any of the triggers and the wounds than it does to just heal it. And then just decide where you want to spend your bandwidth. And then you move into bandwidth management, right? Now it's not like, well, I can't be around that person. No, I could be around that person and I could have a good conversation with that person. Like, I'm okay. I'm okay that it doesn't matter who you put in front of me. I can talk to them. But am I choosing that today? Is that aligned with where I'm trying to go, right? So that's where boundaries to bandwidth, that's the transition, which I'm glad we brought up. Yes, Veronica, it brings the positive ions into your body. Thank you. What's ions? See, I'm not a scientist, but sometimes I retain information, which reduces inflammation and raises vibration. Absolutely. Absolutely. Enrico, all kidding aside, I think there is a point to that. We as people treat objects better than our own mind and bodies. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Can I comment on that? Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I was just having a conversation with somebody around wealth, right? And what is wealth? And it actually shared the podcast that prompted this conversation. And it's on my Instagram if people are there. And if you're not on social media, which I learned about a couple of you, totally fine. If there's anything I reference that you want to know about, can you please promise me you'll shoot me an email? Because I don't want us to have a gap here. I will get it to you. I promise. I'm here to serve you. So please allow me to do that. Message me. I totally get that. And it's probably not a bad thing that you're not on social media, some of you. So but the podcast and the concept was around 3 dimensions of wealth, right? And how we all kind of focus on the material wealth, which is one of the 3. But really, to have a very full life, there's also intrinsic wealth, which is our inner wealth, which is a lot of what we're talking about here. Feeling just good on the inside, being able to process emotion and they literally use the word nervous system regulation, where we're not jumping in fright, living in fight or flight. And then external, experiential wealth, right? So yeah, I mean, I think yesterday my brother said to me, what is it like, and he's somebody who's taken my program and has spent way too much time with me talking about all these things. And he was like, you really need to get clear on your branding and your message. Like, what is it that you do? And I was like, good God, right? But the inner energy, and I said to him, I help people with their inner flow and their outer flow because they're connected. They're connected, yes. And so health is wealth, yes. So my personal experience, and coming from somebody who feels at the point in her life where all the boxes are checked, and in every area of my life has exceeded what I ever dreamed of or hoped for, right? And I say that very humbly because I haven't always had that. I know not everyone's there, and I want you all to have that. That's the goal. That's the full garden, right? It's 111. So your inner state dictates your external experience. And if you don't have this all fixed up, even if you had the external, the material, it won't mean as much to you. There's lots of miserable billionaires. There's lots of miserable millionaires. There's lots of miserable people, right? And abundance and wealth is not just linked to money, is not just linked to material. And once you start to be able to access this state of being of peace and flow inside, you're untouchable, because now you can generate it on your own. You see what I'm saying? You can generate it for free. The feeling that everyone's trying to get to because they think the Ferrari is going to bring them joy, and they think that this is going to bring them joy, and then they get it and it's not, and the insurance is astronomical, and they flipped their Ferrari. I have a friend who flipped their Ferrari recently, right? It's okay. They have multiple. And he's okay, right? That's not actually going to get you where you want to go. But the coolest thing is that, and this is where the next level of the human evolution and understanding, I feel, is when you understand that you can create everything you want on the external, and it's a reflection of what's happening on the inside. That's why this is so big, what we're doing here. This is not just about co-parenting. This is about your whole life. Does that speak to kind of where you wanted to go with that, Enrico? Does that, did you want to get on the mic and ask anything further? I'm totally game.
No, thanks. That clarified it. Just yeah, going back to, we were kidding aside about the Ferrari, but at the same time, there's a lot of emphasis placed on objects when, again, going back to the discussion about vanity and, navel gazing versus like the self-love and the self-respect, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. Thank you for that. No, it's huge. It's huge. And I think that's where the shift is happening now. The previous generations, they were in survival with the Great Depressions, with the wars. There was like so much other stuff going on. And then it was like, oh, 2-car garage, the dog, the picket fence. Then it was like, oh, keeping up with the Joneses. Oh, my face, I'm aging. Oh, Botox. Like, it's like all this physical, material, vain stuff, which we've all, to varying degrees have slipped into that trap. But again, it's all, I think, with this belief that when I have that, finally, I will be happy, right? Whereas this new model is just be happy. Just be happy, train yourself to be happy, and then watch how shit happens. Like, things will just start to fall in your lap. And we're going to talk more about this next week. All of next week is about flow, which is a very exciting topic. One day I will write a book about flow. Keep it exposed, don't cover it up. Yeah. Health as well. Yes. Yes. There's an excellent book I read years ago, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. This addresses, Robin Sharma. He's actually Canadian. Yeah. He's a great author. Yeah. Amazing. So we've talked about several things that can add, and I'm just going to open a little document that I had here just for me to make sure that I've covered. And this will all go in the workbook, so do not worry about my secret notes here, right? But just to reflect back, I'm just going to open. There we go. Both up at the same time. Where are these to me? Computer. Bear with me 1 second, please. There we go. Lawyer, not a techie. Okay. Right? But so just coming back to the children and how this affects our co-parenting relationship, because I know that was the driver to bring you here. When we raise our frequency, when we start to raise our emotional bandwidth, we start to clear out the hose and the pipes, and we start to be this shiny Ferrari, right? All the analogies, the full garden, whichever one speaks to, or all of the above. We start to see our parents, we start to live in 2 happy homes, right? We start to redefine what divorce means. And we honor them by allowing them to see and feel peace in the homes, right? As opposed to the opposite of the conflict. And it allows them, it gives them permission to actually have a healthy relationship with both parents, which is something that they really, really need, we've seen so much research and science around like when a little girl doesn't have a good relationship with her dad, what happens in her choice in parent and future relationships, right? Like I used to be able to peg people's stories, not from a place of judgment, just observation and patterns. When I would see like, oh, okay, this person was drawn to this and this is how they're behaving. Like, okay, how was your relationship with your dad? Terrible. Okay, there we go, right? Like you start to catch this pattern. So now what we're doing is we're shifting that. We're giving our kids the ability to have that relationship with their mom, with their dad, whole and complete, 2 homes. And that's where we're going to defy the previous understanding of, co-parenting. So we talked about things that we can add, and I just want to check my list, right? So we've covered a lot here in the chat. I'm just going to go through the list here, right? There are meditation practices. There's several types. There's breathing courses, physical exercise, dance therapy, journaling. Some of this has come up. Addressing trauma, personal, general, and generational. Letting go of stories that no longer serve you, right? Especially the empty shell ones where there's actually no energy behind it, but it's a narrative that we've hung on to that, well, this is just how my life or life goes, right? We start to transform our biggest loss into our biggest miracles by asking, what is this here to teach me? This is one of the best questions I ever learned to start asking my life. What's the lesson? What's the lesson? Instead of how did this happen to me? Why me? And I don't, if we do that, that's okay. But the next level question is, what is this here to teach me? I never want to do this again. So if this is here to teach me something on Earth School, what is the lesson? Am I fully tuned into it? And that kind of comes back to that introspection. That's how we break the relationship patterns, by attracting the exact same relationship again in our second. If that's something that people want, and if there's a reparation that could happen, that will happen when we figure out what the lesson was and really unpack that, right? This is something that I've shared over and over and over again, is it's not just about processing the wound. It's about getting the pearl from the oyster, So the analogy I often use is Pac-Man. Okay, I'm totally dating myself here, but who's played Pac-Man before? Yeah, the video game used to be at Pizza Hut. You pay 25 cents and you could play Pac-Man. It's like really old, right? And I think Pac-Man is still around and has made a comeback. My kids tell me. But in Pac-Man, what happens? You have all those little white bits, right? And you're on the ground floor. And you got to get all the white bits, and you got to make sure the monsters don't catch you, right? And sometimes you can grab a cherry and it's like, and you get special powers and you're invisible. But the goal of the whole floor is to process all the little bits, right? If you say to me, Rad, I've already dealt with that. I've healed that. And there's 2 bits left. And you say to me, I just want to go to the next level now. What happens? Can you go to the next level? How come? Still fully haven't processed it. You haven't processed the lessons. You haven't processed life, the life experience you came here to have. So what happens? You keep rotating on the same floor until you get eaten, right? But on the flip side, if you were wise and you're like, okay, this happened, let's process it. Let's unpack it. Let's really, and how do you know that you haven't? Because you're still stuck. And that's okay. I have friends, I have people I adore and love, and they're like, I'm doing all the things and I'm still here. So then we got to try something new. We got to try a new technique. You can't keep playing the same video game. Well, first I turn left, then I turn right, then I go this way, but then every time that monster gobbles me up, it's like, okay, stop doing it the same way. Try something new. Can we try? This is not working. And when you finally decide to pull another strategy, pull another tool, technique, even if it's like a 1% shift, this is where people don't underestimate how close they are to getting what they want. We're not talking head transplants here. We're doing small shifts. When you get those two little niblets, those two little white dots, what happens? Put it in the chat. What happens when you clear the whole board? Whole new world. Yes, you love the Pac-Man analogy. I'm so glad. It was the only section of the LSAT when I wrote it that I got perfect. The analogy section. Weird that I know that, but there's softwares that tell you this. You're free to go to the next level. Yeah, you go to the next level. You go to the next level. Yeah, that's how this works. So asking, what is this here to teach me? More clear, more empowered, right? You have more superpowers, right? It's like all these video games. Oh, now I'm at the second level, right? And I might be making like Mario Brothers sounds, but I have two boys. You are at the next level. The challenges might get a little bit bigger, but you're equipped. You have all the second level powers. It's designed for you to be able to get to the next stage. It's stacked in your favor. You're meant to actually get to the 9th floor, right? So taking time to really ask that, unpack that. And again, there's so many modalities to get us there. If you are embarking on the meditation practice, which good God, I really hope you're trying it while you're here with me, please do it if you haven't. It's never too late. Get on the wagon. I will celebrate you. I will open a bottle of like sparkling Perrier. I don't drink, but you know, you can go into your meditation and say, I'm open to clarity. What is the lesson I want to know? When my son passed away, you can better believe I sat down and was like, what is the lesson, universe? Because if there was any chance that I could avoid this from happening again, I'm going to put my eggs in every single basket. Like I'm not taking chances. And I did all the things. And this was one of the things that I did. And because I was already tuned into this, you know, it came naturally to me to ask that. And do you know what 2 words came up for me when I asked that question? My intuition, very clearly, I heard humility and compassion. There's a phenomenal book called Many Lives, Many Masters. If you haven't heard of it yet, I strongly recommend. It's a $20 purchase. Could change the directory of your life. It's such a good book, such an easy read. It's like written like fiction, you know, it's like not going to hurt your tired brain. Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. I believe he was at Princeton University or one of these Ivy League universities, but Princeton's one always comes to mind. Physician. He was a physician, psychiatrist, and a professor at Princeton University. And he wrote this book. And it's all about how when he started to take patients into past life regression therapy, which he didn't think he was doing that. He thought he was taking them into hypnotherapy, into this life to go back to where the wound started. They started to recite things about past lives, and he didn't believe in past lives. And all kinds of stuff came up in those sessions that made him a believer. And for about 20 years, he stayed in the closet because he thought, if I come out like a cuckoo, a woo-woo doctor, right? This is now 60 years ago or whenever, 40 years ago, I'll lose my job. And if I lose my job, my wife and kids have nowhere to live, right? So he actually kept it under wraps for a long time, but they had actually transcribed and recorded. His assistant would sit in on these meetings. They would audio record the sessions. And he wrote a book about it. He was on Oprah several times. He lectures all around the world. I've actually seen him live. But so what are the lessons? So when my lessons came up, I heard humility and compassion. And when I first heard that, I thought, what? Like, I thought I was a pretty compassionate human being already. I was this divorce lawyer. I had my own practice. I had lived, you know, an interesting, colorful teenage life. There's always more. There's always more humility. There's always more compassion. It's creating depth in us, right? It's creating depth in us. Another way that we can raise our frequency is share your story, right? With the right ears at the right time. Love yourself. We talked about this. Forgiveness, huge. That's part of the letting go of the past, right? When we're holding on to old things, it doesn't affect the other person. It affects who? It affects us. It's affecting our energy when we're holding on to stuff from the past. Reaching for a better feeling thought. So if we think about that emotional scale that I showed you last week, which will be in the slides, you can't go from depression to joy, but you can go from here to there, and you can go from here to there, and then there, right? So it's reaching for a better feeling thought than where you are right now, and understanding that there's a scale. Creative expression, art, music. There's so many, all of us, I think, have some creative bone in our bodies. Cooking, right? Like there's that creativity, that second chakra in your body, the second energy center. Physical activity, which Enrico shared, and time in nature, Ron. Yeah. So we've gotten so many of them, and I'm sure there are more. What I do over the years, we compiled a list. We compiled a chart, which I'll be sharing in the materials. Maybe we'll put that in week 3, where it's like all the things you can do to help focus, all the things you can do for frequency, and all the things you can do for faith. Just as kind of a little cheat sheet for you guys to have, if you ever come back and you're ever stuck or just want some inspiration, like, yeah, I used to do this. I really love that. Like I used to be a dancer back in the day, and me and my girlfriend vowed that we would go salsa dancing once a month. We have not been back in 1.5 years, but it's like back on the map, right? So it's like whatever gets your juices going, right? And also starting to pay attention to other things. So there are things like, remember for focus, I said speech can be a barometer, right? For frequency, here are some things I want you to pay attention to kind of be a measurement tool of where you're at, without judgment, with pure compassion, but just a little, conscious tool. What we eat, what we listen to, what we watch, what we seek out, the people we seek out, the experiences we seek out, drugs, alcohol, all kinds of stuff down that list that we know, right? Retail therapy, all those things. What are the things that I'm seeking out? Listen, when I had a bad day at court at the Newmarket Courthouse, I went right for the McDonald's drive-through. And I would convince myself that like I had a very intense day and I worked very hard and I deserve a McChicken sandwich, right? Like, but it's like when my energy's low, I'm drawn to those things, right? When my energy's high, I'm drawn to fruit, right? So just starting to use our outside world, again, back to just check in on like, why am I drawn to this? If I'm speaking judgmentally about someone or something, immediately for me, it's a massive red flag for me, because I really try my best. And it's so important to me that I stay at a frequency where that doesn't exist, right? So, and judgment is one of the biggest buzzkills to your frequency. It is, and I can tell you stories about it, but I won't, right? So if we're in that energy now, if you think about, and I know I'm going a little deep here, but that we are actually all one, that we're all in one planet, we're all connected, we're all the human race, we're all people together, especially the people we love or that we loved or that our children love, right? If we are speaking about them, we are in a state of disconnection. If we're speaking about somebody poorly and they're not in the room or in the room, but judgment's usually when they're not in the room, whether it's spoken or thought, that is an indicator that we are in a state of separation and disconnection, right? So keeping an eye on like all of these, just from a place of like, must be in some funky sauce right now. If I even go there, I'm like red, like it's like SOS, because a vast majority of the time, that's not how my brain operates. And so these are some of the things, right? So there's things we can add. And then I also want you to think about things we can eliminate. We can eliminate, right? And it all comes in this vein: food, content, social media. Who are we talking to? What are we talking about? They say like, what is it? Small minds talk about people, mid-level minds talk about experiences and high-level minds talk about concepts and like visionary ideas, right? It's like, so it's taking away things and it's adding things. So this week, your tool, because remember there's a third tool we're going to add, and it's little things we're just adding to our repertoire of a daily practice that will create a tidal wave in your life of positive, in the positive direction, right? It's like a snowball effect. Is gratitude. It's a practice of gratitude. And I'm going to put in the material some additional bonus content for you to simmer in more, around the science and the social science around just being in an energy of gratitude and how it changes things. And so what I'm going to suggest, because this is the co-parent group, that when your kids are with you or when you're alone, that every single day you carve into your life a practice of either writing what you're grateful for or speaking it out. I started this probably 5 years ago with my kids. We've never stopped. We've never stopped. I'm so proud of us. Like that's the one thing that we have, in this vein, they'll meditate with me once in a while, but the gratitude practice, even my husband's on board and we do it every night. And if I forget, my little ones will be like, Mommy, gratitudes. And I had the cutest little audio notes of my kids growing up. Sometimes they'd be in the dark, in bedtime. And I would be like, oh my God, I wish the whole world could hear Sahil do his gratitude. Like me and my husband to this day, we look at him, we're like, this kid's from another planet, like rainbow child. You'd be like, I am grateful for the earth. It's a very beautiful place. There's so much flowers. There's so much beauty, like rainbows. Like that's where his head goes. And my younger one will be like, I'm grateful for the bookshelves. I'm grateful for the pillows. I'm grateful for my blankets. I'm grateful for Mama, Papa, Sahil, right? So everyone does it very differently. We don't let them off the hook with saying like one thing. We always want it to be a little bit new, really consciously thinking about your day, what you're grateful for. And it's such a beautiful practice to do with your kids before they go to bed. It sets the energy for their sleep. You do in the morning. Morning's also a phenomenal time to do it. Like the end of the day or the beginning of the day. Beginning, if you could squeeze that into the beginning, like even better, I would think. But Sabrina has done programs with me before. So I love that you're still doing that in the car. Amazing when you're dropping them off. Brilliant, brilliant. And so starting this as a daily practice, right? What we focus on expands. What we focus on expands. And gratitude, there is something so energetically expansive when we're in the energy of being thankful. It's like you cannot be in gratitude and be angry. You cannot be in gratitude and feel lack, even if it's money that you want or abundant material abundance, right? When we're grateful for what we have, we are literally flipping the switch on the opposite, which is the lack of things, right? So even as I transitioned out of my law career and my law income to this new business, the mantra I practiced was, I have more than enough. I have more than enough. I have more than enough, right? And it's like, obviously I have plan A, plan B, plan C. Plan D is to sell the house, but right? But I'm like, we will do this, right? But the focus is not on that plan D. The focus is on what there is more of. I have more than enough, right? So whatever you want to expand that, and that's also one of your ways of increasing your frequency, is service, is giving away the thing that you want more of, right? Being in the energy of there's more than enough of this, right? So that abundance mindset, that real wealth mindset would be like giving away stuff, not hoarding, but giving away, not hoarding time, but giving time away, not hoarding love, giving it away, not hoarding money, giving it away because there's more than enough. So the gratitude energy, that's the frequency of gratitude, is I have it. This is what I have and I'm focusing on it. And I love that. I have enough to share. Yes, I'm glad. Yeah, right? It's that overflow energy. There's like not enough. And the other end of the spectrum, there's overflow. And, I even tell some of my private clients, like when we're talking about how to build momentum with wealth, even things like socks, like my husband likes to buy socks at Costco. God help us all. Okay. And I don't understand how you buy them like every 6 months. I'm like, you officially don't have space in your sock drawer, babe. And I checked the ones with the holes out and there's still too many socks. But it's like, whatever you have a lot of, open your fridge. I have more than enough food to feed my family. Open your vitamin drawer, open your makeup. If it's me, makeup drawer. Like I love makeup since I was like 5 years old. Some of you know that, right? I have more than enough eyeshadows. I have more than enough socks. I have more than enough air. I have more than enough sunlight. I have more than enough love, right? And you stay in that energy, it literally raises your vibration. Because now you're tuning into a frequency of overflow, of more than enough. And it is such a great thing that we could teach our kids. So that is the tool for this week. If you're up for the challenge, you're going to continue with the meditation practice. I want to hear how you guys are doing with that. Maybe in our next call, we'll have a moment to like debrief with the group and just see where people are at. And it's not a test, okay? It's just like check in. But keeping up with your mindfulness practice, meditation practice, whatever you want to call it, stillness, quiet time, introspection time, levitating time, whatever it feels like to you, right? Self-awareness, expansion time. Doing that, stacking the breath work, right? The 5 of 555. 1 minute can change the whole path of your day. Just doing it a couple minutes. And then if you want to do more, everything is obviously bonus. And now, 3rd week, we're going to add gratitude practice. And for some of you, you'll need to put a sticky to remind yourselves. Perfect. For some of you, you might decide every time I drink water, I want to feel grateful and thank God that I have water, or thank the universe, or thank whatever life, whatever you believe in. I don't want anyone to get upset because I use the word God. And I'm not laughing because I know it's not the perfect word for some people. Let me drink some water. But yeah, take some. So then I lost my train of thought. So stacking the habits, okay, one by one. We're going to come back on Thursday. So you have no new, sorry, this is where I was. You can put a sticky if you need. You can, this is how we change behavior, right? So we put little inserts into our day as like reminder points. Sometimes after a while, you got to move the sticky because now the sticky's there. It doesn't mean anything, right? So do whatever works for you. If you're going to put an alarm on your phone, put that. If you want to connect it to a behavior like drinking water, you can do that. If you want to make it part of your nighttime routine with the kids, do that. And for those of you often who are not with your kids, you might be calling them at night, right? And when it's not your day, if you're in that co-parenting arrangement right now, and you can do it with them on the phone. And some people even take, like, buy a dollar store or a pretty journal, right? A little notebook, and write it down. And that's also really wonderful because you can look back at a year and just see how things have kind of expanded, right? I know Oprah says this is one of the biggest habits that changed her life, like a turning point in her life when she started this. Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, famous newspaper, also said this was the habit that changed her life. There's lots and lots of books on it, lots of literature on how this works. The key is trying it. Doesn't matter what I say, doesn't matter what Ariana Huffington says about it. Just try it, see how it changes how you feel. And if you want to go bonus level, start to move into that. Like for me at this stage, it's like walking in the energy of gratitude as much as I can, I don't get it perfect, but slowing down has helped me with that. Putting space in my schedule really, really helps me with that. If I'm flying through the day, forget it. There's no moments of gratitude or presence as much. But just like even when you're walking, you can have gratitude. Wow, I'm walking on the planet. Thank you, gravity. Thank you, earth, right? Sitting in the sun, grateful for the sun, grateful for the air. You start to move in that energy, your frequency will naturally rise. So I hope this serves you. Yes, brings us out of scarcity to abundance. I love that so much. Exactly, Vicky, yes. Yeah. As I started becoming more conscious of the importance of gratitude, I realized that this was modeled to me by my grandmother when I was little. She lived this and embodied this, all she did and said. Oh, I love that. See, and you still think of her in that. The seed was planted early and continued to serve me my whole life and allowed me to see the glass half full. This is why I do this with our daughter. I love that so much. Yeah, bless you guys. The kids have a lot of fun with it. It's also a nice way to check in with our kids when they come home from school and you say, how was your day? Fine. What did you do? Nothing. Like, well, I didn't get anything out of you. And what we did was we added to the gratitude practice. Sometimes we'll do like, do you have any low lights? Right? Because these are kind of like the highlights. But you also want to know if stuff's happening at school with the kids or whatever age they're at. So we would say, do you have any low lights? And then Sahil invented medium lights. And my older son, Aryan, said, Sahil, there's no such thing as medium lights. And he was like, and I said, that's okay. He invented it. So now we do low, medium, and gratitude, right? So enjoy it. Use it in your day as presence, as a tool. It will increase all the good things. What you focus on expands. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here today. And we'll get, yeah, let me see this. And we'll get the recording up and the workbook up. Enrico's saying, I asked, tell me one thing that you learned today that you didn't know before today. Oh, I love that. Yeah, did you learn something new? We do that sometimes at dinner. It's a good one. It's such a good one. Yeah. And this brings their awareness. You're now getting them to refocus their thoughts and energy around something positive, right? That's so beautiful. I love that so much. Amazing. Incredible. You guys are amazing. Thank you for being here. I'm so honored. I love you. Please, please, please reach out to me if you have any questions, you need anything, you want anything. Like, now's your time. Let's do this. Let's go all the way. I'm here for you. If you want me to message you every single day, say, Rad, I need you to call me for the next 10 days and go, did you meditate today? I will do it. I'm crazy like that, eh? Like, I'm all in. So there's really no limit. Let me know what you need. Let me know how you're doing. Please, I really want to know. Okay. I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. All right. I love you. Mwah. Thank you so much. Bye, guys. Have a great day. Bye, Vic. Bye.
Thank you very much for everything, Rad. Have a good
So,
day.
thank
Cheers.
you too. Thank you. Bye, love.